NBC News reporting Moss had issues with drugs that led him to being suspended from the team in 1994, and he faced drug charges twice after leaving UW. He was sentenced to a year in prison for cocaine and heroin possession in 2017. You're listening to The Shaw, 101 FM, WAUK, 540 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 2, 1.
Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a magical Monday edition. I feel quite confident, Dominic. Whereas I'd like to think of it, Trump presidential announcement eve.
Okay. You know, we just got done with the elections. Now this guy's going to troll us some more. Happy Monday to you, Crudy Calvin on the board, our fair audience back at it again.
Yeah, back to work Monday. Dom, I got to tell you, I was just thinking to myself, I had forgotten the activities of this weekend we just experienced. As some people were unplugging from the politics, I was eating some bad Mexican food in the birthplace of the grand old party, the Republican Party. I stayed in Ripon, Wisconsin, and I went to the birthplace of the Republican Party, the Little White Schoolhouse. And, you know, I snapped a couple of selfies and did a little snarky video. I got to send that one to you, Dom. That was mostly for your sake.
Oh, thank you.
Amongst yourselves.
Thank you.
And anyways, I actually, if you've ever been to the birthplace of the grand old party, they're very happy to tell you, 1854, effectively this party born, you know, the death of the Whig Party, the birth of the Republican Party. And they've got this monument, this headstone, effectively, you know, like the kind you'd see at a cemetery. And Dom, I was so tempted to go out there and snarkily put died, you know, like 2022, died in the midterm elections, died the day that Donald Trump came down the escalator.
Right. There's so many like perhaps death points. Died when Tim Michaels said it was dead in Waukesha. Died when Trump came down the golden escalator. Died when Josh Hawley said this weekend that the GOP should be dead.
You know, technically, I hate to nitpicks with you, Dom. It wasn't Tim Michaels that said the grand old party was dead. It was some other Trump supportive guy grifting at the Trump rally, you know, between a little stand up from Tim Michaels, et cetera.
Was that the dude from Ohio who also lost his race?
No, not that guy. That guy, the guy that claimed false valor, the guy that.
Yes, that guy.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
That guy.
There's just so many of them.
I forget who was the grifter. One of Don Jr.'s friends. That was my strong impression.
Wow. Okay. Well, anyway, lots of MAGA say the GOP is dead. You know, like Crudy, when became the Whigs to the GOP to the MAGA, and what does it become now?
Well, it's back to being Trump's party because he's jumping in the deep end. Tomorrow night, apparently, a very stoic presidential announcement being made at Mar-a-Lago. I think it's going to happen. I've been telling you this the whole time. Why you would not believe me, Dom?
I don't. I mean, listen, and you also said what I agree, that a guy can say he's running and he's still not running. When he's on the ballot, then he's running, Crudy. Political reporting quickly, Crudy. Club for Growth steps on Trump relaunch with polls showing DeSantis beating him. Here are the numbers. DeSantis leads Trump by 11 percentage points in Iowa, by 15 points in New Hampshire. Those numbers represent an improvement for DeSantis since August, when previous Club for Growth polling found him with a 15-point lead in Iowa, and they were tied in New Hampshire. So August 15, now 11 in Iowa and 15 in New Hampshire.
My prediction, pain. Anyone that runs against Donald Trump's going to suffer. It's going to get a lot worse than
they're all going to suffer.
The
suffering will continue. I mean, there's no upside to Donald Trump. He is tearing this party apart. The Republican Party, Crudy, is in disarray.
So I've heard. However, here's why I wasn't feeling brave enough. Here's my little photo. You might not be able to see that. See the headstone?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of looks like a tombstone there.
It totally does, yes.
I so wanted to tape up, died 2022. Trump killed it. But there was a cop sitting out there yesterday morning. Sunday morning, I get up, sort of a long night, had some bad Mexican and ripping. And my wife, she went a separate way. And I said, well, I got to go see the birthplace of the Republican Party. And maybe it was the devil wagon I was driving.
Yeah, that's
I pulled up in the parking lot Sunday. It's sort of a little museum there.
Way to blend in, Crudy, and Ripon.
Yeah, very, very, very nondescript with the devil wagon in Ripon, Wisconsin, the birthplace of the GOP. So I pull in, and the cop pulled up right in front of me and parked and watched me the entire time. Almost like he had suspicions, let's just say. Like a political stunt might be forthcoming. So, I kept it to myself. Jackassery to a minimum. I didn't want to embarrass the missus. She might not have left the town yet. She might still be within the parameters of Ripon. It's a ripping good town. Mexicans.
Way to take Mrs. Crudy out for a night on the town.
Mrs. Crudy stuck at the beat. Let me tell this story. She invites me to go up to Green Bay this weekend. I'm like, oh, that's great, hon. In fact, she said, let's stay in Oshkosh on Friday, where we have our shiny, new, beautiful civic media facility, 98.3 FM, Oshkosh Air Support. And, I broadcast there from there Friday. But what she had failed to consider, Dom, Packer game. Green Bay Packer game this weekend against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes.
Now, I'd called the ticket broker months ago about this game. This is the hottest game on the entire season. Dallas Cowboys, a lot of people never been to Lambeau. So you got a bunch of Texas oil money coming up. The Motel 6s in Green Bay were approaching $400 a night. And I told my wife, well, you got us that nice place in Oshkosh by the river there where we stayed last time, right? Oh, no, not that place. La Quinta.
Yeah.
So I stayed at the La Quinta in Oshkosh. And it's, remember the place. I got dropped off at the wrong La Quinta.
Yes.
Over by your place. There's two La Quintas.
Yes.
There's the good La Quinta and there's the other La Quinta. Well, let's just say I stayed at the other La Quinta in Oshkosh. And then, so we decided, we had planned on being in Green Bay for the weekend, did spend some time in Titletown. So excited about our new facility there. Got the keys. Going to have a new radio station in the new year. We're going to kick the Fox Valley. They don't know what's coming for him, Dom. And that mediocre Joe guy, you tell him, we're coming. We're coming. Hell's coming for him.
Yeah.
But nowhere to stay. So my wife suggested to me, Ripon. Like she's looking for hotel places. We're trying to just pick a spot where we can get a fair to middling hotel, and not end up at the Motel 6 for $400 a night. And our drinking buddy from Las Vegas, Tom Boyson. Tom is literally from Ripon, so I figured I'd call on Tom. And we got a recommendation, and the Mexican was not as good as I'd hoped. But other than the food poisoning, Dom, it was a fun time. I did.
Are you sure it wasn't just
the Republican Party?
The sulfur smell from going to the GOP, and visiting that. Maybe that kind of got into your guts a little bit, Crudy.
I don't think that was entirely it. Like Dave Chappelle was on Saturday Night Live. And I wish I could have watched the entirety of his monologue, but I was like, I didn't.
No. Okay, got it.
So that's all. Let's end there. That's the show. Have a good one, everyone. That's my weekend. Anyways.
All right, Calvin, you're up, man.
Calvin's like, no, I'm not following that. Dom, we got a pretty big show here. We got Bill Press joining us in the happy hour, and we verified first time since the election. Bill's joined us. Lots to talk about. Mostly decided races. Also, I think I mentioned Trump's running for president. You don't believe me, but I know it's true. And above and beyond that, Dom, the Wisconsin GOP, the House members, and Senate member, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, sadly recently reelected here. Dom, they've all got leadership in their blood. They're all going for big positions, and
Go for it. I mean, if you want leadership in the GOP, look no further than Ron Johnson. Who are the other cats?
Brian Stahel is looking for a leadership role under new Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
So Paul Ryan's driver is now he's a congressman. He's looking for some roles. And what about our boy Glenn?
Oh, Glenn Grothman. He also has big ambitions in the new Congress. He's ready for anything, he tells the prospective Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And Ron Johnson's got his eye on a couple of spots. But Dom, I wanted to talk about U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin. Let's start there. Effectively with the political headlines. Dom, there is some confidence now that the elections are behind us that they're going to be able to codify marriage equality, same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
And Tammy Baldwin, the first openly gay serving U.S. senator, I believe, has been instrumental, been moving the needle on this. Want to get this started, and we'll carry this one over. But the bipartisan group working on legislation to codify same-sex marriage has the votes needed for the bill to pass and is urging leadership to put it on the floor for a vote as soon as possible, multiple sources told CNN. So we've got some lame duck legislation moving forward when it doesn't take any Republican courage to vote for it, because people will long since forget you. The bipartisan group, which includes GOP Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, retiring, U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, GOP Senator Susan Collins of Maine, Democratic Senator Kirsten Sinema of Arizona, GOP Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, and they said in a statement today that they look forward to the legislation coming to the floor. Though, through bipartisan collaboration, we've crafted common sense language to confirm that this legislation fully respects and protects Americans' religious liberties and diverse beliefs, while leaving intact the core message of legislation to protect marriage equality. We look forward to this legislation coming to the floor and are confident that this amendment has helped earn the broad bipartisan support needed to pass our common sense legislation into law. Dom, they got 60 votes. 60 votes. Bipartisan legislation. Devil's advocates. The Monday edition, come back with us.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates.
Today, I made a mental note. It was 1:09 Central Time when I found out Ron Johnson was a conspirator in a coup, a traitor to the Constitution. And Ron's been something of an apologist. They seem real friendly. Well, maybe to you, Ron, because you were on the inside of the coup. And I've never made that accusation prior to today. So let's play it for the people.
This staffer stated that Senator Johnson wished to hand-deliver to fake electors' votes from Michigan and Wisconsin.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter. The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Hey, and we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy Monday. Join us on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, the Marriage Equality Act, Tammy Baldwin is moving to, actually, technically, it is called the Respect for Marriage Act, and is seeking to codify prior Supreme Court rulings, right? We've already decided this. There's already precedent. But in light of the, Dobbs and the Roe v. Wade, the overturning of 50 years of precedent, and the fact that Clarence Thomas, in his, his concurrence, his majority concurrence, said effectively, let's go review Obergefell. Let's go review same-sex marriage. And, there are people that had prior said that they would be supportive of this bill. People like U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, who was for the bill before he was against the bill.
Before the election, and he had to go right, and now he maybe go left. He doesn't know.
Well, he explained himself as basically, getting asked a tough question and lying in response, and then later coming around to the truth. Because, I didn't want to be put on the spot. Sure,
there's a guy that deserves to be elected because he's got credibility.
Well, we'll come back to U.S. Senator Ron Johnson at a little bit later point in the show, Dom. But I think certainly the American people have moved on this position. And I would remind you, before we came on the show, the last time the people here in the state of Wisconsin went to the polls on this issue, same-sex marriage, they rejected the concept. In 2006, there was a constitutional amendment. The people of Wisconsin voted, and marriage was upheld as one man, one woman, no exceptions. Now, there had been some progressive things the state of Wisconsin had done with domestic partnerships. We were out front on an acknowledgement of things like civil unions, but actual full vested rights like every other U.S. citizen? No, that was specifically forbidden by constitutional referendum here in the state of Wisconsin. And first, the legislature had to bring it up twice, had to go through 2 legislative sessions before, we could entrance, marriage bigotry into our Constitution. It went through 2 votes at the House, effectively, both chambers.
They really meant it.
They put it to the people of the state of Wisconsin. Now, I think people, as we've all been exposed, there are some of us, and I'll readily expose my bigotries here, Dom. I didn't know. I was right there with Barack Obama, man. I didn't know that this was something that I was okay with back in 2006. I don't recall specifically voting against codifying same-sex marriage here in the state of Wisconsin. I don't think I felt so extremely that I didn't want to see others get married. But, if you ask me, it was, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. And I think many people felt that way, whether it was based on Christian moral values or whatever it is that.
Well, I don't know what else it is based on. If it's not based on religion, why? What is the justification for it? Because you think it's gross? You know what I mean? Come on. Of course it's religion. Quick, Curdy. The Gallup in 1996, according to Gallup, support for gay marriage, recognizing that same-sex couples get the same rights as traditional marriage. In 1996, 27%. You mentioned 2006 here in the state of Wisconsin. In 2006, it was up to 42%. And most recently, according to Gallup, back in May, 71% of people in this country are down with same-sex marriage.
I'm sorry, well,
71%. Currently at 71%.
2006, what I referenced here in the state of Wisconsin, the constitutional referendum, at that time, 59% of Wisconsin voters banned same-sex marriage, made it a constitutional amendment, effectively. That just shows you how rapidly we have evolved as a culture, right? I mean, 16 years, that's pretty freaking rapid. But it took an action of the courts. It really took an action of the courts to open up the door to same-sex marriage. I mean, we were on the air with former
Tate
Democratic Party chair of the state of Wisconsin, Mike Tate, who had worked at Fair Wisconsin in 2006. He had worked against this referendum. He had worked for fairness. And Mike Tate was on the air with us 2014. It was, I believe, like June 6th of 2014.
It was a convention, wasn't it? State convention?
We were at the Democratic Party convention. It was our first 3-hour show back when we used to work hard. And Mike Tate was on the air when Barbara Crabb, a federal judge ruling, came down that opened up the door. Basically, a week-long injunction opened up the door to same-sex marriage. And here in Wisconsin, man, I mean, it was a joyous time. People ran down to the
yes.
They ran down there and they got married. And I think the first show we had after same-sex marriage was legalized, I think we had 9 guests. And many of the people we had on were couples that had gotten married over the course of the weekend.
Yeah.
They saw
hurry up and do it. Hurry up and get married.
Yeah.
They got the opportunity. There was a window and they took it.
And the window closed shortly thereafter, at least briefly. And then the U.S. Supreme Court made a more broad ruling, which got the door open for the entire nation effectively. But that's all subject to change into the whim of the Supreme Court, Dom. And that could all be rolled back like 50 years of reproductive rights for women. Now, as a political issue, be careful what you wish for, Christian conservatives, because they're the ones that have the big issue, right? They find some justification in Leviticus or something, man and a man laying together. And give you some,
yeah, but they're totally fine with mixing their wools and their linens. They're totally fine eating shellfish, also in Leviticus. So it's not like you can even rely solely on the pure belief of the religion. Because there's other parts that are very specific that they don't follow nearly as much. It's weird how that works.
I'm just saying, this particular issue has evolved very rapidly. And if you get 10 Republicans signing off on this, and I think you should, but I mean, think about what an evolution that would be. One of the few legislative pieces that you can move through the filibuster is done with the support of 10 Republicans. I mean, that is a massive shift in the Republican Party. Maybe they saw the midterm outcomes. Come back with us. I think it was probably in the works before the midterms. They said, call us after the midterms when it doesn't take any courage. More devils.
A progressive voice for rural Wisconsin. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
Jimmy K here for the spaceship.tv. For those of you that know me well, you know I value my couch time. And getting out to shows, well, it's just not in the cards sometimes. Well, now the shows come to me with the spaceship.tv. The spaceship.tv is a virtual venue for artists of all kinds. They have great local music, plus the high quality stream makes for an amazing show on my big screen. Make your couch time rock and see a show at the spaceship.tv today. The spaceship.tv.
WAUK will be broadcasting the Waukesha Christmas Parade live, and you can become a sponsor. Call us at 262-232-8164. Sponsorship includes an on-air interview during the live broadcast of the Christmas Parade. A portion of the proceeds goes directly to the Waukesha Memorial Fund. Please call at 262-232-8164. That's 262-232-8164.
University of Virginia football team juniors Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Deshaun Perry were remembered by their head coach as all good kids. They were shot and killed, and 2 others were wounded after arriving back on campus after a field trip to see a play in Washington. University President Jim Ryan.
My heart is broken for the victims and their families, and for all those who knew and loved them. And they are all in my prayers.
A fellow UVA student, Christopher Darnell Jones Jr., has been arrested. He once played on the football team. There is no word on a motive. President Biden's student loan debt forgiveness effort has been dealt another legal blow. Three-judge federal panel from the 8th Circuit Court in St. Louis has agreed to a preliminary injunction as the case works its way through the courts. Last week, a federal judge in Texas blocked the program. Texas case was appealed, and the administration is likely to appeal the 8th Circuit ruling as well.
We tried Dynovite nutritional supplement, and after a couple of weeks, we noticed a big difference. Our little Gizmo's coat was shinier, and there was a lot less scratching and shedding.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
Gifting season is here. It's not too early to find the perfect presents like the styles every guy loves from Untuck It. Get ahead of your holiday shopping with wrinkle-free shirts, long-sleeve polos, cozy sweaters, and more. Untuck It shirts are designed to be worn untucked, so they help guys to look sharp and feel casual. That's why he'll love unwrapping one of our iconic shirts this year. Now's the time to beat the rush and find the perfect shirt at Untuck It or at over 80 stores. Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn.
For Civic Media, I'm Terry Bell with this news. The flu is surging early this season, and the CDC is encouraging everyone 6 months and older to get a flu shot to help protect against serious illness. The hospitalization rate for last week was higher than every previous season since 2011. The flu was less common during the height of pandemic precautions when more people were distancing and people's immune systems have had less exposure. Health officials also speculate people who've had COVID may have weakened immune systems, which could result in more severe flu cases. In sports, the Packers stopped their 5-game losing streak when they beat the Cowboys yesterday. Green Bay is at Minnesota Sunday. The Bucs host Atlanta tonight. You're listening to The Shaw, 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a magical Monday edition, I assure you. Dominic, while Tammy Baldwin moving towards codifying marriage equality, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson and some of his Wisconsin GOP housemates, they're bucking for leadership, Tom, because it's so deserved. Want to talk about this just for a minute. Lawrence Andre at the Journal-Sentinel, Wisconsin Republicans target leadership position with an expected House majority. Ron Johnson pushes to postpone selections. Ron thinks it's way too early to pick leadership. With a new Congress looming in January and Republicans still poised to take control of the House, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson is calling for a delay in party leadership elections as he and several other members of the Wisconsin GOP delegation appear to be positioning themselves to take on bigger roles in the conference. Johnson, coming off a victory that secured him his third term, hurts to say, Dom, joined a chorus of Senate GOP colleagues last week in pushing to delay the chamber's Republican leadership election set for Wednesday until the conference can have serious discussions.
So serious.
About what the party can do to improve its chances of winning the presidency in
Don't
both
run
chambers
anymore. Don't run
in
Ronald Johnson.
2024, according to the letter Senator sent to colleagues.
Sorry, go ahead.
The group, which includes Senator Rick Scott of Florida, Mike Lee of Utah, cited the outstanding Senate election in Georgia, as well as the short timetable to hear from candidates as reasons to delay the process. That and a lack of leadership on the Republican caucus.
Well, I can see why they would want to hold down. I mean, Georgia still up in the air, right? We won't know for another couple of weeks. And if Walker wins, I mean, isn't that the guy you're going to want to lead your caucus? I mean, why wouldn't you?
Holding out for Herschel? Herschel or bust, baby. Dominic, here's what Rojo said on the Foxy News Sunday with Maria Bartiromo, I believe. If we hold these elections right away Wednesday, you probably have more campaigning done in a high school class president election than we would have in the most deliberative body in the world.
And when I think of Ron Johnson, I think deliberative.
It's absurd. It's preposterous. They need to be delayed. We need to have these discussions. Dominic, Texas Republican U.S. Rep. Chip Roy called for a similar delay, in the House Republicans were scheduled to hold their elections Tuesday. Now, how does that make sense? I mean, seriously, I hate to agree with Republicans, but how do you elect your leadership if you don't know if you're in the majority of the minority party at this point? I mean, you're just going to what? Have Brian Style hold the curtains, measure the curtains?
Well, what makes you
don't?
think they would change who their leadership would be depending on whether or not they're the majority or the minority?
Well, because if you don't have plum committee assignments to hand out as the Speaker of the House, I think this coalition behind Kevin McCarthy is going to start falling apart rapidly. I mean, there's a little quid pro quo going on, a little log roll.
Okay, so good point. So you think McCarthy's trying to slam this thing through as quick as possible, so they can hurry up, give it to me, because in case, because they don't have that to offer, they don't have the plum committee chairships to hand out, right? That's your point.
Well, Brian Stiles is specifically looking for direct, I don't know if you call it nepotism per se, Dom, but you'll get the point. Let me read a little deeper. Oh, are you going to do it?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Crude again from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Still, lawmakers in Washington appear set to move ahead with the schedule as Republicans in the House and Senate meet officially Monday for the first time since the midterms that saw Democrats maintain a majority in the Senate. Republicans are expected to win a slim majority in the House. We'll wait and see about that one. Johnson himself is considering a run for chairman of the Republican Policy Committee. According to Punchbowl News, a spokesperson on Monday told Milwaukee Journal Sentinel Johnson had not ruled out a bid for the post. Discussions over a potential postponement of the Senate leadership elections are expected to carry into Tuesday when the caucus meets for a policy lunch. In the House, U.S. Rep. Brian Style was named last week to Republican leader Kevin McCarthy's transition team, leading the, quote, restoring the people's house, unquote, branch of the transition, restoring the people's house. The move is another sign Style could be tapped to chair the House Administration Committee in the next Congress, a committee charged with overseeing day-to-day operations of the House, including managing expense authorizations for House committees and members of Congress.
Dominic, there's a little bit more here. I want to talk
Glenn.
Glenn Grothman.
Yeah, baby.
Time to pursue a little leadership. Meanwhile, Wisconsin U.S. Rep. Glenn Grothman is also throwing his hat into the leadership arena. Oh, is there a more deserved congressman?
I can't think of one.
Wasn't Glenn Grothman named the Trumpiest of all U.S. congressmen?
I believe he absolutely was.
Grothman on Friday sent a letter to his Republican colleagues announcing his bid for House GOP conference secretary, who is in part responsible for keeping track of the minutes of conference meetings. I realize that's an important job for somebody, Dom. But does Glenn Grothman strike you as the sort of guy you want taking minutes?
A prolific note taker, that Glenn Grothman. Never shooting from the hip, always prepared.
The development was first reported by Politico. The Glenn Beulah Republican in his letter said he tried to be, and this one's going to crack you up a little on the inside, an articulate voice for conservative values, and pointed out his state-level leadership in the Wisconsin legislature. He noted that he had grown his constituent newsletter to more than 55,000 people, and he had given 145 speeches on the House floor since the 2020 election. That's far too many, Glenn. He also highlighted several of the 108 bills he introduced in Congress since he was first elected. The list included legislation on so-called sanctuary cities that would prevent federal funds from going to governments that violate immigration law, as well as a bill that would increase the penalties for trafficking fentanyl. Here's what Glenn wrote. We call him Glenn because he's been on the show, Dom. I last visited with Glenn at an airport in Milwaukee where Trump flew in on Air Force One, and Glenn had a fly commercial back from D.C., couldn't get on the Trump plane, and got stuck in the air. And my daughter happened to be flying in from L.A. later that night. She made it on the ground before he did. So anyways, we bumped into Glenn at the airport.
Glenn Grothman, as Trump would call him.
Said this to his colleagues. I'm not afraid to be outspoken and would be available for whatever duties our speaker assigns. Whatever duties.
Whatever duties. Hey, Glenn, would you please take this stack of fraudulent electors from 2 states and hand them off to Mike Pence? Would you do that for us, Glenn?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Johnson would. Down a little bit more, a spokesperson for U.S. Rep. Mike Gallagher said the Republican from Green Bay is poised to join a select committee on China that McCarthy said will be created to look into where the U.S. has fallen behind China and what role Hunter Biden has in spreading Chinese corruption here.
Of course. And where was Biden today? Talking to China.
Good point, Dom. Good point. Dominic, for Johnson, the Democratic majority in the Senate means the Wisconsin senator, and this is kind of sad, Ron, will not be the chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. No gavel for Ron in the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. It could largely prevent him from carrying out extensive investigations into Hunter Biden, President Joe Biden's son, and the U.S. response to COVID. Well, what will he do, Dom, other than about 300 talk radio hits a year?
Well, Crudy had an op-ed published at the Wall Street Journal after his re-election win, but before Democrats secured the Senate, Johnson laid out a plan for Senate Republicans aimed at controlling the size, scope, and cost of the federal government. Johnson highlighted legislation that would reduce the federal workforce and establish a congressional approval process for certain actions that have a substantial impact on the economy. He argued that Congress should focus its attention on oversight of existing programs and areas of the federal budget that have the greatest negative effects on freedom, our economy, and people's lives. Senate Republican conference rules require us to adopt an official legislative agenda, he wrote. In my 12 years in the Senate, this has never occurred.
Well, he always said, Dom, he didn't accomplish much.
Again, members should vote only for leaders who commit to both adopting the required agenda and fully involving the conference in its development. Good luck with all of that. You guys are tearing each other apart. You got the megas, you got your traditional gopers, and you're going to try to blend this, and you don't even have control of the House. And Ron, you're sitting on the outside in the Senate, brother, no matter what happens now. So sorry for you, man.
He's not part of the cool club. Doesn't have a gavel, Dom. 844. I need a gavel. Where do I get a gavel?
I have a gavel. I got one at the house.
844-967-2789. As Beer Jesus, you should have a gavel. Joe from Madison, welcome back. Hopefully you had a good weekend.
Hey, Joe.
Oh, I had a fabulous weekend because I was listening to wonderful streaming podcasts and James Santel on Saturday and enjoying this vast, beautiful network that you guys have created, which is one of the most positive things of the last year. Wonderful stuff. I would indicate, though, I would like to get some of that swag going so we can get some nice gifts going for the house.
Yeah, who's working on the swag? Swag's down the priority list, Joe, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was planning on calling you anyway, just to thank you so much for last Friday when you were talking, the two of you were talking with Maggie Dawn, and at one point you had a caller call in to say, gee, it was a pretty good election, better than we thought it was going to be. And you, Crudy, just kind of hit the button and said, I don't think so. Our state elected 2 insurrectionists. That would be Mr. Van Orten in the 3rd and Mr. Johnson as our senator. And I really thank you for that, because there is such a tendency to just go, well, the election happened, we'll just kind of let it slide. And he was involved in, openly says, seditious conspiracy, and he had the overt act of trying to, as you said, Dom, of delivering these slate of false, illegal electors. And the fact that you said it and didn't just say, oh, well, wind it up, no big problem, is really, really important. That what happened was a theft of an attempted theft of our democracy. And here's this guy sliding into a position as chair of Republican Policy Committee, and, oh, it's just so average and normal. It's not average. It's not normal. And I understand that, the Merrick Garland has a heavy load and we're going through the Proud Boys and all, but man, the sadness that this man was able to commit this act and is apparently suffering no consequence as of yet is disheartening for democracy. It's really disheartening, and I'm really glad you brought it up. But I'm also really glad that the network's doing what it's doing and becoming just a force for wonderfulness in the state. So I have conflicting feelings. Anyway, so there you go.
You and me both, sister. Thanks, Joe.
It's complicated, Joe.
It's complicated.
I agree. Obviously, you acknowledging my astute assessment of the fact, it wasn't a complete success story for the Democrats.
Oh, of course,
and we left some major opportunities on the table, specifically in regards to Ron Johnson and Derek Van Orden. Now, I was already out scheming this weekend, man. We are not going to let that guy hold on to his congressional seat. That's a 2-year, every 2 year. We're coming for you, sir. So hope you're prepared, and you'll have a congressional record, something as amazing as Glenn Grothman's, hopefully someday. And you'll have to run on your record next time through. So I would say,
really? I'd like to think he'd run on his record, but if he ran on his record this time, he would have got his ass thrown off and never would have been elected, man.
His record as an insurrectionist.
Insurrectionist, right, man. There's an R behind his name, and there's a certain amount of people that are going to continue to go that way unless we can convince them otherwise.
There's not a hell of a lot we can do with U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. Thank God, except for 1 or 2 seats. Ron would have the gavel. And it would be a total you-know-what show as he investigated Joe Biden, a la Hillary Clinton, a la Benghazi. It would just be a complete waste of the taxpayers' dollars. Now, there might be some there somewhere. If you dig enough, you're going to find some problem somewhere in this world. And I have no doubt that Joe Biden's son is a ne'er-do-well who's been, living on the old man's name. But Ron, aren't you living on your father-in-law's name? Aren't the Trump kids living on their dad's name? And isn't Donald living on Fred Trump's good hard work? Air quotes good.
Thank you for that.
So anyways, Dom, an article by Jennifer Rubin. I'd like to touch on this. Maybe not now, but soon. If the GOP can't get rid of Trump, maybe Georgia's prosecutors can. Now, Lindsey Graham was involved in Georgia. I'm less clear that U.S. Senator Ron Johnson was, but I'm more worried about getting rid of Trump. Let's cut it off at the head. More devil's advocates.
19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
With so much loss, you may feel like you can't handle it all. Meditation or other spiritual practices can help you feel more grounded and better able to cope.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Sterling, and I know what it's like to struggle with mental health issues. If you have a friend that's going through a tough time, now's the perfect moment to reach out.
Are you not hearing this static and stuff?
I don't hear it as much as you, no. I hear it very little.
Brought to you
Even
by
you
the
talking
Ad
to me
Council,
right
the
now
American
makes it worse.
Foundation for Suicide
I heard
Prevention.
you just right now. You broke up a little bit talking to me, but my signals are fine here.
Suddenly, my quarterback is the #1 trending topic. Why, you might ask, is Aaron Rodgers trending on Twitter? He's out this game. He's got COVID-19. And to my perception, he freaking lied to us, man. I'm very frustrated that he is not eligible to play this Sunday, especially when you find out your quarterback is a half a Trumpster. And he claims, I'm not a flat earther, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just play one in the NFL. That pisses me off, man. I was going to bet on that team. Maybe. New time, 3 to 6 p.m. And Dom.
You've waited 12 years for this, but you just didn't know what the flavor was going to be. Nothing has tasted quite right up until now. Sometimes it tastes.
That one just said 3 to 6 p.m. and Dom. That thing's almost
That's a year
and
old.
a half old.
Yeah.
Legit lager. This beer won't embarrass you in public. It comes in an aluminum can, not a tinfoil hat, and it was made in America, not Russia. With a clean finish, the taste doesn't lie. Mandela Mash, the only sane choice for U.S. Senate. Available only in Wisconsin. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com to find where you can buy this fresh new
I think
flavor
Aaron's
of
been
American
cleaning
democracy.
up the promos. Make a note for Aaron.
I love nachos.
Loving Please, everything? Talking to you, Calvin.
Buzzed. You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin uprising. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open for your take at 844-967-2789. Our pal Bill Press going to join us at the top of the hour.
Are we sure?
I'm pretty
Pretty
sure.
sure.
We'll see.
Pretty
We'll
sure.
see.
We'll see. We'll see. Dom, I mentioned the Rubin piece. I want to go there. If the GOP can't get rid of Trump, maybe Georgia's prosecutors can. Again, I don't think this will affect U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, but a boy can hope. Despite dragging his party to defeat in the midterms, former President Donald Trump is expected to announce his 2024 presidential campaign tomorrow, Dom. My understanding, tomorrow night in prime time. This would not only obliterate the GOP's chance to win the runoff election for Georgia's U.S. Senate seat, but also threaten his party's prospects 2 years from now. I hope he does.
Yeah, please.
But Republicans will likely learn in the near future that Trump's latest political humiliation is the least of his worries. He remains in grave legal peril on multiple fronts, and no criminal investigation is a greater threat to him than the one being conducted by Fani Willis, the district attorney from Fulton County, Georgia. Let's not forget, Tom, people like Brian Kemp, they were exempted testimony until after the election. Well, now here we are, a little bit more from Jennifer Rubin. Willis is teeing up a strong criminal case against Trump for his attempt to pressure Georgia election officials to overturn the state's 2020 results. She has been calling the former president's cronies to testify before a grand jury and is successfully beating back specious challenges to subpoenas from key figures, including former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, and South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. A voluminous new report from the Brookings Institute provides a legal roadmap for the potential prosecution of Trump. The report debunks defenses that Trump will likely deploy and underscores the real possibility that his closest associates might flip in the case, given how many might face criminal liability. And the report, Dom, sums up the damning facts in this case.
Cody, Trump and those around him, including his chief of staff and others, made multiple attempts to intervene and overturn the state's election results. His personal attorneys testified falsely in the state legislature. His campaign pursued a plan to organize false electors that included a bogus slate in Georgia. Trump attempted to replace his own attorney general to seek the unlawful intervention of the Georgia legislature. Most notably, on Saturday, January 2nd of 2021, Trump placed a call to Georgia's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Trump urged and ultimately threatened him to reverse the election outcome, including a demand that he find 11,780 votes that could be deemed fraudulent and tossed out. That number was exactly one more vote than the margin of Joe Biden's 11,779 vote victory in the state. If Raffensperger's office complied with the request, Trump would be named the winner of the state's presidential election and presumably could use that development to seek a broader unraveling of the certified election results in other states, confirming his defeat. Now, Rubin writes, Trump's call to Raffensperger is by no means the only action he took demonstrating his intentions. Indeed, the evidence presented in the Brookings report should remove any reasonable doubt the former president was out to steal the election. And that includes, Crudy, lots and lots of bullet points. I'm going to get through them all. Trump's repeated attempts to discredit the results even before the election began, and despite multiple investigations that found no evidence of fraud.
No evidence?
No evidence. Zero. Even by what? Like Will here in the state of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, the Legislative Audit Bureau, everybody. Nobody found squat.
Some more bullet points. Calls that Trump made not only to Georgia officials, but to election officials in multiple states to devise slates of phony electors. You know, the one that Rojo's going to help him out with. Trump's desperate ploy to have the Justice Department send out letters to states falsely indicating there was evidence of fraud. Remember? Just leave it to me. Trump's attempt to fire then acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen when he refused to send out such letters. Trump's enlistment of lawyers, including John Eastman and Cleta Mitchell, to work out a scheme to negate Georgia's valid, certified electoral slates of electors. Trump's decision to send his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, to falsely testify at a Georgia hearing about already refuted conspiracy theories. The Brookings report also notes that Trump's team continued to pressure Georgia legislators throughout the month of December, with Giuliani meeting again with the Georgia State Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on December 30th of 2020. Trump's attempt to enlist Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel to help his efforts in Georgia. And finally, the last bullet point, Cody, Trump's refusal to heed pleas from Georgia officials that his bogus allegations were putting election workers and state officials at risk of violence.
Dom, I'll carry us across the finish line. Much of these details emerged during hearings conducted by the House Select Committee investigating the J6 insurrection. Altogether, the evidence against Trump that would be introduced to a trial jury would be staggering. The Brookings report then applies several Georgia criminal laws to the facts, and they lay out the laws here. Dom, Georgia Code 21-2-5973, 21-2-566, and 21-2-603. I'm not a licensed attorney in Georgia, Dom, but I bet we could find one. Reading through the report's compilation of law and facts, it is clear not only that the district attorney could bring such a case against Trump, but also that it is virtually inconceivable that one would refuse to do so unless you're that Alvin Bragg guy in New York. As Norman Eisen, one of the report's authors and former co-counsel to the House Judiciary Committee during Trump's first impeachment, tells me being Jennifer Rubin, there are no longer a democracy if an ex-president can get away with conduct that would lead anyone else to be charged. And while Eisen notes that there might be some exonerating evidence that is yet to come to light, doubtful, he adds, what evidence is known is so strong, the charges against Trump are likely. And Republicans still loyal to Trump, who think the former president would be able to evade prosecution, should reconsider. The Brookings report analyzes a list of defenses that Trump is likely to make, including, I was framed. Including assertions of immunity by virtue of his status as a former president.
Absolute immunity.
Claims that his conduct was protected by the First Amendment. Accusations of selective or retaliatory prosecution, and an insistence that his conduct is shielded from liability because he truly believed his own claims of widespread voter fraud. None of these arguments, the report's authors conclude, would have any merit, and the report is a sobering reminder of the extent to which a would-be authoritarian would go to retain power illegally. As Eisen tells me, election denial is a danger to the republic. And unless the election denier-in-chief is charged for his past conduct that appears to have crossed the line to criminality, the threat will persist. And it comes back to the Republicans. After torpedoing arguably their best opportunity to win both the House and the Senate, Trump is demanding that his party ignore his political failures, as well as his exceedingly strong chance he will be indicted in the weeks ahead. And jumping all the way to the conclusion, leave it to a courageous woman to do what hordes of sniveling Republican politicians, donors, and insiders cannot: hold Trump accountable.
Yes, please.
Ruben talking about Fannie Willis from Georgia. Please hurry up and do it. And stick around. More Devil's Advocates coming back. Hour 2 of the Happy Hour with podcaster, pundit, our pal Bill Press.
I just want to find this local musical interlude is brought to you by Max Inc. Radio. Kelsey Miles.
I don't know why we're feeding out static all over.
Listen to Max Inc. Radio every Saturday and Sunday, 6 p.m. to midnight. Download the podcast at maxincradio.com. We are local music.
We have to really understand how critically important a time this is. Time for talk is over. The time for action is now. Because my voice has always been and will continue to be for people who don't have a voice.
Tune in to the Earl Ingram Show every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. only on WAUK 540 AM, 101.1 FM, The Show.
You are listening to WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266 DR Waukesha, always streaming on the Civic Media app.
Howard is fire chief in Salersville, Kentucky.
What we used was rope and cribbings and Stokes baskets and pulled the students up the hills for the one up the hill, except the ones that could get up the hill by themselves.
That from WTVQ. 3 members of the University of Virginia football team are dead, shot to death on campus. 2 others hospitalized after a fellow student allegedly opened fire after a bus the victims were on arrived following a field trip to Washington, D.C. Vice President Kamala Harris.
A constant reminder that we have to do better in terms of gun safety laws.
Hi, Bill. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, indeed. You sound good.
All right. You sound great, too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Virginia. President Biden met for some 3 hours during the G20 summit in Indonesia with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Afterward, Biden told reporters he objected to China's aggressive actions against Taiwan, while saying there are areas the two can work on.
China and the United States should be able to work together where we can to solve global challenges that require every nation to do its part. We discussed Russia's aggression against Ukraine, reaffirmed our shared belief in the threat where the use of nuclear weapons is totally unacceptable, and I asked that Secretary Blinken travel to China.
Oscar-winning screenwriter Paul Haggis was ordered to pay an additional $2.5 million in damages in a rape lawsuit, bringing the total to $10 million for a woman who says he sexually assaulted her nearly 10 years ago. While accuser Haley Brees lawyers called the verdict just, Haggis insisted he had been falsely accused and was financially ruined. This is AP News.
We tried Dinovite nutritional supplement, and after a couple of weeks, we noticed a big difference. Our little Gizmo's coat was shinier, and there was a lot less scratching and shedding.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dinovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dinovite.
Gifting season is here. It's not too early to find the perfect presents like the styles every guy loves from Untuck It. Get ahead of your holiday shopping with wrinkle-free shirts, long-sleeve polos, cozy sweaters, and more. Untuck It shirts are designed to be worn untucked, so they help guys to look sharp and feel casual. That's why he'll love unwrapping one of our iconic shirts this year. Now's the time to beat the rush and find the perfect shirt at Untuck It or at over 80 stores. Untuck It. Shirts designed to be worn untucked.
27% of the American workforce, and some even say 30%, were in unions who had representation and who clearly did not have to worry about whether or not they were going to get their fair share. But I'm definitely going to fight for people who get the short end of the stick in this society only because they don't have representation. That's who I am.
Check out the Earl Ingram Show every day from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. only on WAUK 540 AM 101 FM, The Shaw.
Here's today's STEM tip. Don't throw out that old plastic bottle. Repurpose it by turning it into an awesome terrarium. Just fill it with sand, pebbles, soil, and your favorite plant. It'll grow sealed right in its own ecosystem. Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
This message is for Shauna, my mom, who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You taught me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
I asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, a family like yours.
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
My early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take, but it gave my mom and me more time to plan together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association.
Yeah, turn that up a little bit.
Phones? Social media? You've kept up with the times. If you can do that, you can definitely.
They're an inconsistent volume.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Some are quiet, some are loud.
All right, just keep an eye on the levels, man. That's all you can do.
That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Natnier with your headlines. Lac du Flambeau tribal officials will build and operate their own internet after the only available provider in that part of the state didn't put forth a satisfactory plan to move forward. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reporting the industry standard for internet is to have at least 25 megabytes of download speed and 3 megabytes of upload speed. Service on the reservation nowhere near that, with some on the 86,000-acre reservation using their cell phones as mobile hotspots to connect. In fall, the tribe announced it received a $25.6 million grant from the National Telecommunications and Information Administration of the U.S. Department of Commerce to construct the system, which will be owned and operated by the tribe. The plan is for internet service to start reaching tribal households by the fall of 2023, taking at least a year to reach all the tribal households. You're listening to The Shaw, 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a magical Monday edition. Rolling into the happy hour. Dom, tomorrow we mark the glorious return to the airwaves of our good friend, Matt Flynn. Matt Flynn Direct. Well, technically, his show will launch again on Wednesday, but we're having Matt Flynn on our big show tomorrow about 4:30. And today, we got a podcaster. We got a pundit. We got a friend of ours. He is Bill Press. Bill, welcome back.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Dom. Hi. Yeah. And hello, Crute. Both of you.
Well, I'm glad you at least acknowledged me, Bill. I said nice things about you, Bill.
And good to celebrate together, huh? How about
yes.
Well, Bill, you don't want to come to Wisconsin right now, man. It's turning cold. We are turning season.
I don't want to come to Wisconsin for another reason. I don't want to get anywhere close to. I mean, one of the big disappointments. Let's face it, there's a lot to celebrate, but Jesus, having Ron Johnson back in Washington, God. Yeah, it's like getting COVID for the 5th time, you know.
I think Ron's only had it 4 times.
We're sorry, Bill.
It was one of the big disappointments, and it's fortunately, we're going to win Georgia, which means we're not going to have to put up with Ron Johnson's not going to be leading any investigations, right? He'll be neutered, but even the fact that he's breathing the same air as I am in Washington is pretty disgusting. So, sorry, Wisconsin. I wish you'd done better on that one. Yeah.
Well, Bill,
all we can do is try, man.
But listen, otherwise, man, so much good news to celebrate. It's hard to know where to start. I mean, we just wiped them out, and we talked about this. I was a lot more optimistic than most people were. I didn't believe the damn polls. I didn't believe what the media was saying about this red wave was based on absolutely nothing. And, the MAGA Republicans have egg on their face. So do the pollsters, and so do most of our friends in the media. They just bought that Republican propaganda hook, line, and sinker. And it pissed me off. Still pisses me off.
Well, I don't mean to make you angry, Bill, but I would tell you, if you saw it coming, I wouldn't have seen a split ticket decision in the state of Wisconsin. Tony Evers, the Democratic incumbent governor, returns with 89,000 more votes than his sort of extremist opponent. And I can believe he won that race. I mean, Michaels, the opponent, was an extremist, a carpetbagger, not much good to say about him. But Ron Johnson's an insurrectionist.
Yeah.
And Ron Johnson went against one of the most dynamic Democratic politicians in our state. I would have thought that Mandela Barnes, as lieutenant governor, had lifted Evers' candidacy. And when it came time, and I was very nervous that Mandela wouldn't make it through the primary and we wouldn't turn out black voters in Milwaukee. Well, Bill, as I'm starting to dig in, they didn't turn out black voters in Milwaukee. They didn't do it. The only reason the closeness of the race really is we're starting to see some changes in the exurbs of Milwaukee. Some of the out counties are turning just a little bluer. And of course, where I live, Bill, I live in the most liberal, beautiful place in the world in Madison, Wisconsin. Other than the winters, it's beautiful here, Bill, but we continue to turn them out at presidential levels, even in the midterm. You're welcome, Tony Evers, but 27,000 votes. And, we're back with Ron Johnson, an insurrectionist, Bill. I thought being an insurrectionist, or at least willing to transmit the false Trump electors, I thought that was sort of a deal killer for Wisconsin voters, but apparently not.
Well, yeah, I don't understand, but I was so glad to see Tony Evers get reelected because it's so important with that legislature you've got to have a Democratic governor. It's the only thing between, insanity and reality. I think. Look, split tickets. There are a lot of split ticketers. Look at what happened in Georgia, right? I mean, there were 140. I heard these numbers today. There were 140,000 people who voted for Brian Kemp for governor, did not vote for Herschel Walker for senator. 140,000. There were 60,000 who voted for Brian Kemp for governor and did not vote for U.S. senator, right? So a lot of those other people voted for Raphael Warnock. So it's sort of we haven't seen the split ticket really for a long time. It's sort of like, some animal that we thought was extinct suddenly showed up again, right? Like the ivory-billed woodpecker or something. But look, Wisconsin was a disappointment. Texas was a disappointment. Georgia was, particularly Ohio for me. I thought Tim Ryan ran the best race in the country, and his message was absolutely right on target. But the fact that we defied history, defied gravity, held on to the Senate, looks like we're going to win Georgia, pick up a seat actually in the Senate, and scare the bejesus out of the Republicans in the House. We could still maybe take the House, but probably we're going to be like maybe 5 behind in the House. And that's going to be chaos on the Republican side. I've said this before on your show. I'm going to say it again tonight. Kevin McCarthy will never be Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Oh, really?
No, they are.
Put Bill down for that.
The knives are out for Kevin McCarthy. He may get the Republican caucus, maybe, but he still needs 218 votes, and he doesn't have them right now. And I don't think unless some Democrats vote for him, he will ever be elected Speaker, and he's not going to get any Democratic votes. Look,
go ahead, Bill.
I just say he's weak, he's feckless, he's ignorant. Nobody likes him, he's been working at it for so long. And my Kevin, the first one to throw him under the bus will be Donald Trump. If he doesn't endorse Donald Trump by tomorrow night, 2024, Donald Trump will turn the MAGA Republicans against my Kevin.
Well, our Bill Press, our fine guest, friend of the Devil's Advocates, we'd like to think. Bill, if Kevin McCarthy is the caucus leader or perhaps even speaker, and you're wrong for a rare occasion, it would happen in part because the 3rd congressional seat in the state of Wisconsin, a 24-year blue seat, went to another insurrectionist. The Democrats, as near as I can tell, didn't even compete in what electorally should be a competitive first CD. Brian Style is, he's a sophomore Republican, and it's a more competitive seat. We didn't really compete. So, Bill, I feel like the maybe it ain't the local Democratic Party, but the DCCC left Wisconsin hanging out to dry. And if we come up a seat or two short, it's no thanks to national House leadership.
No, look, I hear you, but the fact that Kevin McCarthy said they were going to win 60 seats, right? That they were going to wipe us out, and the fact that Democrats will end up with over 200, probably 212, 213. You got to say that's a pretty good night for the DCCC. But I think where the DCCC really screwed up, with all due respect, I'm sorry about that one seat in Wisconsin, it was New York State, of all states. New York State. They lost 4 seats, including, of course, the guy who was in charge of holding on to the House, Sean Patrick Maloney. If it had not been for New York State, Democrats would still be in control of the House of Representatives. There'd be no doubt about it. Yeah.
That hurts even more than Wisconsin, Bill. Bill Press, podcaster, pundit, our friend.
Yeah. Let's not focus on the bad news. The good news.
Oh, right. Yes.
Well, we did with governors, with U.S. senators, and with the House, and with the anti-abortion initiative, or the pro-life initiatives. Pro-choice initiatives around the country. There is a lot of good news to celebrate.
Bill, just want to confirm you're going to stick around through the break for another segment, right till the bottom of the hour. We're good there. Because I
don't know whether.
All right, yeah, man. We will hang out with Bill Press. Hey, listen, I think I know who to thank for this. 72% of women 18 to 29 voted Democratic. I mean, when I look at, if you just step back from all the shenanigans here in the last several years, it just seems like if you see what's happening, see how Trump and the Republicans and all the inputs, I'm not surprised of the outputs. He lost the Senate, lost the House, lost the White House, lost the midterms. I'm saying it's a loss. I mean, it wasn't as bad as it certainly could have been for the Dems, could have been better, but historically should have been so much worse. And thankfully, 72% of women 18 to 29 came out. Of course, Roe v. Wade, of course that was going to be an issue, a big deal. So kudos to them. But Bill, who's to blame on the Republican side? I mean, I think this party's in disarray. Who's to blame? Who is responsible for the lack of victory on the Republican side, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I want to join you in saluting young women, single women. Remember, Republicans are blaming single women for voting Democratic. Well, of course they did, because the Republican Party has declared war on single women, war on all women. Salute women and salute young voters.
Yeah,
I mean, they defied expectations too, right? Nobody said they don't care. They've given up. We're not talking about their issues. They were concerned about abortion was a big one, guns was a big one for young people, and democracy was. They saw their rights slipping away. Your question: who's responsible? One guy, Donald Trump. Donald Trump. He's the one who saddled the Republican Party with this slate of embarrassing, unqualified, unfit clowns for governor, for Senate, for House, and for Secretary of State, and he basically lost them all. And then he made the whole race about himself. I'm going to run in 2024. No, I mean, Republicans ought to turn against him 100% and just throw him out of the party, but they're not going to. Let's talk about that when we come back.
Yes.
Bill Press, we will talk about that. My understanding, Donald Trump makes a presidential announcement from Mar-a-Lago tomorrow night. We'll talk all about it on Wednesday, but we'll talk more with Bill Press on the other side. The happier happy hour rolls on.
Keep up the fight for freedom, man. My party is going bat crazy.
Taking your kids to their first baseball game. Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
President
Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Hey, Joe.
What do you got for us today?
In reference to Lindsey Graham, I was amazed at his comments where he said if Trump is indicted, there will be riots in the streets. Lindsey Graham was a JAG officer, and in order to be a JAG officer, you have to pass the bar. Was a JAG officer.
I'm sorry, a JAG officer? I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, to see a lawyer head for the rat hole instead of acting like a person with a backbone. Wow, what a profile in courage, huh?
Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you gotta be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere, even in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Our pal, Bill Press. You can find him on Twitter at Bill Press Pod. Sticking around for one more segment, Bill. Thank you for doing so. Great to talk with you again, man. I really wanted to get your take. You've been around a lot of elections, young man. I appreciate you joining us and talking about it. As you said before we went to break, Donald Trump is really the one to blame for this. And I agree. But certainly he's had the sycophants and the enablers and all those who around him, who, when he peaked, boy, he won the presidency. They all glommed on him. Now they're kind of paying the price. And as we see, as mentioned, losing the Senate and the House and the White House and all the midterms, he's going to come out tomorrow, apparently, and claim that he is running for president. Bill, number one, do you think he's going to actually run for president? Do you think his name will be on the ballot? And how does this impact the Republican Party, in your opinion, sir?
Well, first of all, yes, he's going to announce tomorrow. He's already invited hundreds of people to Mar-a-Lago. He planned to do that because he was going to ride the huge red wave, right? The red whiff, the red whiff ball.
The red wedding?
He was going to ride that, but as he said ahead of time, I think the night before the election, if we do well, I get all the credit. If we don't do well, I shouldn't get any of the blame, right? So this is his plan. As to whether or not his name is going to be on the ballot, that I would not guarantee. But he's going to run. Let me tell you, he's going to announce tomorrow. To me, it's the best thing that could possibly happen to the Democratic Party, and the worst thing that could possibly happen to the Republican Party. Right? Because think about it. Republicans are going to be boxed in with him for the next 2 years. And there's only going to be one issue. It's not going to be nothing about policy, right? Nothing about what are they going to do about climate change or education or, gun control or anything, right? It's all going to be about, do you support Donald Trump's big lie that the election was stolen from him in 2020? That's all he talks about. That it's this whole issue. It's going to be all about him, and every Republican is going to have to either agree, right? Yes, 2020 was stolen, or Donald Trump is going to attack them, insult them, run people against them, and it's going to be internal warfare in the Republican Party. And by the way, doing this tomorrow, in the middle of the Georgia runoff, right, or the beginning of the Georgia, is again the worst thing that Republicans need, because again, it's not going to be about Herschel Walker. It's going to be about, he'll make it about himself. I hear people saying, you think Donald Trump will come in to campaign for Herschel? Do you think they can stop him?
Bill Press.
He'll fly in and hold one of his phony rallies and talk about himself. he'll forget why he's there, right? Just to talk about himself. It is idiotic. I'll just say one other thing. So people are saying, oh, Republican Party, this is it. This is it. You know, he forced us to lose the Senate, lose the House, maybe lose all these governorships, lose all these Secretary of State. This is it. Now the Republicans are going to break with Donald Trump. No, they're not. They can't do it. They won't do it. We've heard this. We've seen this movie before, right? He slammed John McCain when he's a candidate. Everybody said, oh, that's it. That's it. No, it wasn't. Right. The Access Hollywood tape. Oh, that's it. That's it for Donald Trump. No, they didn't. He sent an armed mob to attack the United States Capitol and the vice president of the United States. And he's like, oh, this is it, man. We got to run from Donald Trump. Some of them said that for a couple of days, maybe 5 minutes. Then they've crawled back to kiss his ass, right? Same thing now. Yeah, some Republicans are saying, we got to break with Trump now. They won't do it. Kevin McCarthy won't do it. Mitch McConnell won't do it. Anybody doing any sense would, but most of them don't have any sense. So 40% of the electorate will stay with Donald Trump. And you think 2022 was a big wipeout? 2024 is going to be end of the road, Toad, for a lot of these guys.
Bill Press, quickly, can Herschel Walker possibly survive without Brian Kemp on the ballot? In a special election, it's dead Herschel Walker walking, isn't it? At least electorally. You know what I'm saying, Bill.
In my judgment, he cannot survive, right? For a couple of reasons. You mentioned number one, and I gave the numbers earlier, right? There's a 200,000 people voted for Brian Kemp, did not vote for Herschel Walker, right? That's a big enthusiasm gap, if you will. Meaning what that means, translate. Republicans came out, they didn't come out to vote for Herschel Walker. They came out to vote for Brian Kemp. If Kemp's not on the ballot, there's no reason for them to come out anyhow, particularly now that the Senate is settled. There's no reason to come out. There's a good reason for Democrats to come out because it gives Democrats the power, having 51, to fully to staff. Every committee can be chaired by a Democrat. You don't have to have 50-50 Republicans. But there's no incentive for Republicans. And then again, add Donald Trump to it. Goodbye, Herschel.
Bill, let me ask you. I know you were a party guy in California, Democratic politics. Iowa caucuses. The Democrats have hated the Iowa caucuses, can't get the results accurately, whatever the case may be. They've threatened to move away from Iowa, but the Republicans are going to Iowa. And for the Democrats to move to a different state, I guess perhaps Michigan, the best target-rich environment in that they've turned their legislature blue. There's a chance that the now blue Michigan would want to go first in the elective cycle. But Bill, could you see sort of disenjoining these two parties in the presidential cycle? Can you see the Republicans doing Iowa and the Dems doing somewhere else?
Let me just say this. When I was Democratic chair, I was a member of the Democratic National Committee, and I voted to end the caucuses in Iowa. I think they're undemocratic, unrepresentative. I'd like to see them go to Michigan. If I were there now, that's what I'd vote for. I don't know whether they will or not, but enough with Iowa, enough with New Hampshire. Forget them. They don't represent all of America.
Well, Bill, you know what they got in Michigan? Legal cannabis.
Legal weed, baby.
We would find our way to go cover.
Oh, yeah.
Good reason to be there.
It's not here, though. Bill, I got to drive 45 minutes to Illinois, and, it's kind of sad, but I do it. Bill Press, always worth the wait. Bill, thanks for coming around, man. We'll talk to you real soon, I suspect.
Thanks, Bill. Right.
More Devil's Advocates, the Happier Happy Hour. Your phone calls are next. 844-96-PARTY.
Thank you.
The Shaw 101 FM. Franklin's choice for News Talk Radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
My husband said to give our house more curb appeal, so I started painting. Then I went on Google and looked up the meaning of curb appeal. It said to make it more nicer. So I called Replacement Window Center, and they put in new replacement windows.
Get free installation and 0% financing for 18 months. Free installation and 0% financing. Hurry, call now.
Replacement Window Center. Our name says it all.
Hey!
Catch Up North News Radio with Pat Kreitlow at its brand new time, 6 to 8 a.m. weekdays. The city of Shanghai started administering an inhalable COVID-19 vaccine. I hear a lot of you saying the same thing I had in my head. I don't know about that.
As long as they're not just crop dusting everyone.
Crop dusting, that's exactly what I think people would be fearful of. I would not trust the Chinese government. I would trust people who really know about inhaling something and the good that it does you. Of course, I'm talking about Dom and Crew.
Included in the issues President Biden talked about with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Indonesia was Taiwan.
I do not think there's any imminent attempt on the part of China to invade Taiwan. And I made it clear that our policy on Taiwan has not changed at all. It's the same exact position we've had. I made it clear that we want to see cross-strait issues peacefully resolved.
Biden adding, when it comes to China, the U.S. would compete vigorously, but I'm not looking for conflict. He added, I absolutely believe there need not be a new Cold War with China. President's plan to forgive student loan debt for millions of borrowers has handed another legal loss. Federal Appeals Court panel agreeing to a preliminary injunction halting the program while an appeal plays out. Officials identified 6 men killed in a deadly collision between 2 vintage military aircraft at a Dallas air show, all of whom were experienced aviators.
We tried Dynovite nutritional supplement, and after a couple of weeks, we noticed a big difference. Our little Gizmo's coat was shinier, and there was a lot less scratching and shedding.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
Gifting season is here. It's not too early to find the perfect presents like the styles every guy loves from Untuck It. Get ahead of your holiday shopping with wrinkle-free shirts, long-sleeve polos, cozy sweaters, and more. Untuck It shirts are designed to be worn untucked, so they help guys to look sharp and feel casual. That's why he'll love unwrapping one of our iconic shirts this year. Now's the time to beat the rush and find the perfect shirt at Untuck It or at over 80 stores. Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn.
This is Pat Kreitlow from Up North News and our new early morning program heard right here on weekday mornings, Up North News Radio. We're a small but scrappy state-based newsroom that covers politics and policy, but also other stories that show off our state, its people, places, food, and much more. You can find all of that on our website, upnorthnewswi.com, or on your favorite social media site. Just search for Up North News WI. Don't forget the WI and give us a follow. Then, from 6 to 8 a.m., we talk about those stories and much more right here on the statewide radio stations of Civic Media. We have guests, analysis, commentary, we talk music, sports, weather, and probably a few too many anecdotes about my time as a TV anchor, a state legislator, an island dweller, and now a grandpa. It's real information and good conversation that's unabashedly Wisconsin. That's Up North News Radio, weekday mornings from 6 to 8, on the radio, online, and on demand.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, rolling through the happier 5 o'clock happy hour, the Monday style. Bill Press, he exposes, we love Bill Press. We agree with Bill Press. There's no opposing views there.
Bill's the coolest cat, man. Love Bill Press.
Bill Press sees it as a glorious Democratic victory, and I would draw a couple of distinctions. You know this, Tom. Ron Johnson returning to the U.S. Senate, of course, Derek Van Orden here in the state of Wisconsin. The fact that we, this great state, my beloved state, elected 2 known insurrectionists to the Congress is really quite bothersome to me. So I'm sorry if I'm not celebrating.
I know. And listen, I get it. And it could always be better, man. Yes. But come on.
It could have been a lot worse.
Oh my God. Yes. I mean, and what is this? Now we got what? Now we got a battle on the Republican side. They're disarray. Or, Trump's going to come out and announce what tomorrow? Oh, that's going to go over well. I mean, if they don't exercise, the Republican Party, the megas don't exercise themselves from Trump or Trump from them, however they are connected. I mean, you think 2024 is going to be a bloodbath electorally speaking.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's great. So, and I like Bill's perspective. Yes, Donald Trump. It's a great thing for the Democratic Party. It's a terrible thing for the Republican Party. But here's my other concern. It's a terrible thing for the country. You know what I mean?
The
that
chaos
is
created by
yes, that is
grabbing of the headlines.
Come on, man. That is what it is. And what do our adversaries want? Chaos, man. It doesn't matter right, left, middle. It's chaos. And Donald Trump is the chaos bringer. So I'm hoping we're a little more callous to it, a little more numb to it now. Tomorrow night, if Donald Trump announces a run for the presidency, are the broadcast stations going to carry it?
No, not
good.
The same.
Good.
Fox News, maybe, but even Fox News has had it.
But that's different. That's different from when he announced last time.
Newsmax.
Right? It's different though. That's different. He will not get the coverage that he did in 2015.
Dom, I'll be watching or listening to the Badger game right here on Civic Media. We will not be playing out the Trump announcement. 844-967-2789. Tom from McFarland. Welcome, Tom. What do you got for us?
Hi, Tom.
Hello, guys. Thanks for taking my call. And, I actually think this is going to be an amazing 2 years for the Democratic Party for the simple reason that come 2024, the American public are going to have two views as far as how we govern. There's going to be the Democrats in the Senate, and there's going to be the Republicans in the House.
Yeah.
And the House is going to have the slightest of majorities for the Republicans. And we've seen how the Republicans, they cannot have policy or govern worth nothing. You're going to have the collectivists like Boebert and Getz, who are going to be all about getting as many clicks and likes and playing up for the limelight. They're not going to be interested at all in policy, and they're going to put forth the most crazy bills that are possible. And with that majority that they have, it's going to be next to impossible for the Republicans to get absolutely anything of substance passed, because the majority of their caucus doesn't want to have anything of substance passed. They want to make this a clown show. So the American public are going to see, here's how the Democrats govern, here's how the Republicans govern. And
but Tom, I'm not
rather start that way.
I think you make a fairly good point, Tom, but here's what I would say. They've always governed like that. Maybe it's gotten a little bit worse. I agree on the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Matt Gaetzes, those seeking clicks over even constituent votes. I get that part, Tom. But I'm telling you what, I don't think and I don't mean to deride our fellow men and women out there across the country, Tom. You were obviously educating yourself, staying civically engaged. Most people don't.
Yes, right.
Most people don't understand the interplay. Most people blame it on whoever's in power. And the only reason the Democrats, Tom, to my humble opinion, and thank you for your call, sir, the only reason they preserve their narrow majorities is not governance. They didn't even know how to tell the American people what they had done for them. Maybe if they'd have tooted their own horns, talked about the American Rescue Plan and the infrastructure deal and everything else, talked about how they're trying to help the economy for the American people, but they didn't talk about any of those things.
That's not what propelled them. Are you kidding me? Yes, they did.
It was all about Roe. It was all about young women saving our asses.
Well, and they certainly didn't thank you for that. But I mean, Biden was out there specifically talking about that. He had an address to the nation on democracy, and he listed the items. I mean, it was discussed, and I agree with you.
And that's what turned out young women, those economic
of course
issues
not.
laid out by the 80-year-old
But that's
president.
the point, right? If the young women showed up, and thankfully they did, 72% of women 18 to 29 voted for Democrats. And if Roe brought them out, great. And if that was the hook for the engagement, okay. But we're not. I mean, it's not a war. It's not a battle. It's a war. It continues on. It's a self-governance thing. It never really ends. So hopefully that engagement was the hook for them, and they will stay engaged. And hopefully we'll get some, assault weapons, gun safety, and that'll hook some other people. And you hook. And ultimately, I think the point is to keep them engaged, to make them understand that this is not a game. It's not something you tune into every season. It continues on. As much as I could, you know me, man, as much as I want to say, all right, we voted, that election is done. And this is how it was years ago, and we'll just forget about it for another 6 months or another couple of years. That's not the case. As soon as you hang on, I'm sorry. As soon as you stop working at it, as soon as you take a nap, as soon as your eyes and your gaze averts, The Republicans are always pushing.
Well, no doubt, Tom, but the very same ruling, the Supreme Court ruling, the Dobbs ruling, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, that energized women, right? But it energized women, but the electoral slight majority in the Senate and the probable minority in the U.S. House does not give them any ability to restore those rights. That's what's going to happen. Those 72% of these young Gen Z voters that showed up, they voted, they said, damn it, give us back our rights. And guess what? The Democrats have no way of delivering that. Zero way. So 2 years from now, in the presidential election, are they going to be just as engaged and said, well, it's not really the Democrats' fault. It's the structural makeup of the intransigence of the Republicans. Let's punish the Republicans and give them, the Dems, a larger governing majority. You would hope so. You would hope if we keep telling the truth long enough, Dom, that people are going to start catching on.
Yes, they will.
But that's not usually the way it goes. They become disaffected when governance does not deliver for them. And I would say somewhere along the line, we've got to acknowledge the fact black voters did not turn out in Milwaukee. They have not turned out in the state of Wisconsin for Democrats in a sufficient number in a long time. It's not that they're turning out for Republicans. It's they stop seeing the Democrats delivering for them. That's my fear. This elective cycle, it was young women. Well, we don't deliver reproductive rights for them. And how is that going to happen? Not here in Wisconsin. We're still going to have
that's all about how you message it and how you talk about it, man. I mean, it took 50 years for the Republicans to lay down their groundwork to rip this away. You think you're going to get it done in one election cycle? Look, that's why it's constant engagement. And that's why a show like ours, a network like this, will be helpful in the long run, because it's not just about one election and one cycle.
Man, I've been kicking your ass on the radio every day for like 11
yeah,
years.
Bring it, baby.
844. It's already been brought. 967-2789. I believe Ross from Middleton, you're next. Welcome, Ross. What do you got for us?
Hi, Ross.
Hey, guys. Nice interview with Bill. It's always nice to hear Bill's voice.
Yeah.
Playing off Tom. Just a quick comment on Tom. I mean, I think he's generally right, but I think people don't pay attention to Congress. They just sort of lick their finger and stick it up in the air, and they sort of say, which way is the wind blowing? So I'm hoping that, I'm thinking that if this inflation thing gets sort of improves, that in 2 years, presidentially, I think the Democrats could be looking really good. And then with regarding to the abortion thing, I think that, it's the main explanation for why the Democrats didn't why the Republicans didn't have the big red wave, like sort of the normal political sort of process, unless we're living in a whole separate universe where those old rules don't follow. It seems like it was the democracy issue, yeah, maybe, but I'm thinking it's the abortion issue is what got people out and would sort of change the dynamics in this particular race. And I'm thinking now that this Dobbs case might be like for the Republicans or Roe was. This may be the gift that keeps on giving. That is the Republicans are going to have to play defense from now on. And whereas now I think the Democrats can use this more as a kind of a, I don't know, like an offense, like using it, talking about women's rights and such like that.
Bludgeon them with this. Yes, Ross, I think that's a great point. I mean, the Roe v. Wade, obviously, for all those years, the Republicans have taken over. We're freedom of choice. We're pro-life. No, you're not. You're anti-choice. And I think now that they've had, be careful what you wish for, as Curdy said. Now that they've got it, now they got to defend it. And obviously, as we have seen, most young women are not down with it.
844-967-2789. Let's check with Annie from Watertown, Wisconsin. Annie, what do you say, young lady?
Hi, Annie.
Well, everybody is up, and, turning on Stephanie Ayers this morning and up. But Ron Johnson, Scott Fitzgerald, these are criminals. These are people who are criminals. And what the heck? Just send them back there.
Alleged criminals. They haven't been convicted yet, Annie. And I'm not clear that they ever will be, quite frankly. In the annuals of history, I would hope these things are going to all come to light, Annie. And I hope historians judge our current representation and their actions and their conspiratorial actions around the January 6th. But Annie, sadly, there ain't no charges. We can not like it. We can think they're criminals. I thought that former governor of the state of Wisconsin, Scott Walker, was a criminal because he kept breaking statute in a criminal fashion. But guess what? He never got charged. He never got convicted. Wanker.
Right, but that's where it comes down to the people being the judges more directly, democracy. Saying, hey, these people are involved. I mean, there's just certain things that they were doing that they didn't dispute. In fact, Ron Johnson said, no, only for a few seconds.
A minute, a couple hours, maybe. Annie, thank you for listening. I wish we could be judge, jury, and executioner.
Well,
right?
but we need an educated electorate, and unfortunately, in the state of Wisconsin, and certainly around the country, the citizenry is bombarded by conservative talk radio. You've mentioned it, Crudy, over and over again. How much Senator Ron Johnson got free time? Come on, I mean, even look at
300 interviews, 96 hours this year.
Right. And if you don't hear a counterpoint, if you don't hear something else, if you don't hear reality, well, you might be inclined just to go that way because that's what you heard. You heard it on the radio, so it must be true. Well, when you listen to this show, you know damn well it is.
844-967-2789. Let's go back to the phones. Rico from Rock County. How's it going, Rico?
Hey, Rico.
Hey, good, you guys. Yeah, you got my best phrase there, Dom, reality. What I'd like to see a little bit different this time around is they ran on, crime and the economy, right? Well, crime here in Wisconsin, give me a break. I think we're in the top 10 amongst the nation as far as safer places to live. I think number 8 was where we came in. Somewhere
You know
in
what?
that line,
Where
whatever.
we are spiking, though, Rico, domestic violence. Wisconsin has a lot of domestic murders, and I cannot tell you, but we are amongst the worst in the nation for that. I blame the weather.
Yeah, and and I don't know if you can put enough police on the streets to stop domestic violence. That's not going to happen. My other issue was this: the economy, and I started asking people right towards the election, right before the election, the ones that I could get looking at reality. I says, let's look at reality. Yeah, gas is up, but let's look at jobs, and let's increasingly look at pay. In 2019-20, we had jobs that were $8, $9, and $10 an hour. Those jobs are now $12, $13, $14 an hour. And then we had jobs that were $15, $16 an hour in the manufacturing base. Those jobs are now paying $18, $19, and $20 an hour. We need to start running and say, is your life better, like they like to do? You know what? I think if you do the math, that extra money that you're making in your paycheck will more than cover the gas.
Rico, thanks for listening, man. Down in Rock County, one of our favorite counties on the way to Illinois. Come back. More Devil's Advocates, many more of your phone calls. We're lining them up in the queue. Be patient. You could be next. 844-96-PARTY.
My party is going bat crazy.
Social media? You've kept up with the times. If you can do that, you can definitely save for retirement. Go to aceyourretirement.org and in just 3 minutes, you'll get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands? You can have that feeling every time you drive. Make sure your cell phone is stowed away whenever you are behind the wheel.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
We've mentioned, inflation is going to be an issue. Let me ask you this. What would you like to see Donald Trump do if you were here? What did you suggest Biden do to address the inflationary pressures we're facing right now?
Well, I can't tell you that because that would be something you could counter and defeat Trump with or the Republican Party. So tell you.
You think Trump's taking strategy from you on talk radio, Lou?
I mean, you're no Kid Rock, Lou.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice Hard Seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice Hard Seltzer.
What grows in the forest? Our imagination and our family bonds. The forest is closer than you think. Find a forest near you at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the last segment of this wonderful Monday. Thank you for listening. We'll get back to the phones right now at 844-967-2789. Al from Milwaukee, you are next. Welcome, Al. What do you got for us?
Hey, Al, how you been, man?
Good evening, Dom and Prudy. I'm doing good. The election and your statement about the blacks not voting in Milwaukee is not true. It's not true. It's about they're not voting if there's nobody to vote for. And they weren't convinced that Mandela could do the job. That was part of the problem.
Well, that's a fair enough assessment, Al, but they didn't turn out with sufficient numbers. They didn't increase the number. We actually saw a decline in the number of Milwaukee voters.
Because they didn't have anybody to vote for. In other words, the people that have been in office all this time have not addressed the issues of the black community. Even the people in Milwaukee, I'm talking about the Common Council, the county board, the sheriff, all these officials. We have a majority in the city of Milwaukee, and they're not addressing the black community. That is part of the problem.
Al,
the people aren't voting because there's nobody representing them.
Well, I mean, Mandela Barnes, the lieutenant governor, black from Milwaukee. I mean, if he's not the one to help address it, I mean, I don't know who's more of a person to do that. Al, let me ask you this: what are the issues
that Mandela since he was 13 years old? I was coaching at Marshall High School when he was a student there.
And you don't think he'd be a better senator than Ron Johnson?
I didn't say that.
Okay, all right.
I voted for Mandela, and I know he would be better than anybody would. Crudy would be better than Ron Johnson. Hell, I'd vote for Crudy for president against Trump. Shit. I mean, but come on, man. I'm just saying.
Al, I know what you're saying, and sometimes when you think of Crudy and higher elected office, it's flustering for just a moment.
It is. Al, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate your perspective. I do want to hear. Please continue to listen. Call us back. What specifically? And I hear what you're saying. And the numbers are down, no doubt about it. But you're right. I mean, we have new leadership in Milwaukee County. There should be a resurgence, as far as I'm concerned, of people engaged and involved now that we have kind of turned the corner in some ways. But the numbers aren't proving that, Al. So please stick around and let us know. 844-967-2789.
I do it better.
Scott from Minnesota. Welcome. What do you got, Scott?
Go Vikings.
They can win no matter what. But tomorrow's announcement will be about Donald Trump, third party. And if there's enough interest, donation-wise, he may run in 24. It'll be the Lion Party.
The Lion Party. That would just blow up the GOP, Scott, wouldn't it?
Well, as soon as he announces it, they quit funding his legal bills. Correct?
Well,
they did tell him that, yes.
But I mean, the guy's sitting on $100 million of other people's money already. I think he could utilize that to fund the legal bills. He doesn't need the RNCs. Just sticking it to the RNCs, Scott.
Well,
because they're cultists. Their whole party.
It's hard. It's hard
cultist.
to indict a politician running for office.
No, it's not. It's actually
hopefully-
totally easy and totally legal, and you don't get a pass if you decide to, put up a job application for somewhere, man. You know what I mean? He doesn't get any protections, and these are things that went on long before he's going to run for office. I mean, the wheels of justice turn slowly, Scott. So if it would be the case that someone could not be indicted simply because they decided to run for some sort
I'd
of
like
office.
to declare my candidacy, like Al suggested.
Right, Your Honor. 844-967-2789. Thanks for this call, Scott. Appreciate it. Dick from Madison, you're next. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
I'd like to buttress Tom's earlier call, and here's why. I know you said that people forget about this stuff and on and on. Here's the thing that's going on right now. All the things the Democrats did really haven't come to fruition yet. In other words, a lot of the stuff that Biden pushed through, they're going to start paying dividends in this next year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah, the infrastructure bill doesn't work right immediately, Dick, right?
Right, exactly what I'm saying. And so it lags a little bit behind. And then when these idiots are just, like mercury on the floor, scattered all over, let's do this indictment, that one, all that nonsense, the Senate and Biden are going to continue to start, delivering more. And this stuff is going to actually start happening in the next, year, 18 months. And I'm telling you, I totally agree with Tom's analysis on it.
Dick, I really appreciate that colorful analogy, like mercury scattering on the floor.
Right? Paints a visual.
My only question about the Democrats, and I agree with you, Dick, we're going to see positive garnered benefits from already passed legislation. Will the Democrats actually claim credit and say this is the result of the legislation we passed? Are they going to run away from it like they did from the ACA, Obamacare? Like a decade later, they're finally getting around to claiming it. Well, too late now. It was an electoral landslide as they all got washed out for something that now is almost universally accepted as being a good thing. 844-967-2789. Universally accepted as a fairly good caller. Wisco Paul, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hey, Paulie.
Hey, good afternoon, Devils. Great show as always. I don't understand not voting for Mandela because they're going to get zero. I repeat, zero from Ron Johnson. The second thing, I hope the Supreme Court justice, to me, that's the most important election coming down the pike. I sure
Absolutely.
hope they advertise on your station. I hope they advertise on your station. And with that, I'll let you go here. But it's a big one. Thanks.
Well, with my luck, Wisco Paul, it'll all be Dan Kelly dollars. Because, of course, it's a nonpartisan race. We've got Everett Mitchell, who's considered a liberal because he's not, a Trumpian. Everett Mitchell is from Madison, and he's been on the show, Dom. And then, of course, we've got Judge Janet Protasewicz, I believe, and Judge Janet. And we met her, or I met her at the Democratic Party convention.
And Mitchell was on the show a few weeks ago.
She was being squired around by Rebecca Dallett, which is a pretty good company to keep. Current Justice Dallett. Really appreciate Bill Press coming around. Always a good friend of ours. Don't forget, tomorrow, we welcome back Matt Flynn to this fine program. He was in a sabbatical, Dom. In your motherland. Where is that? Sicily.
Sicily. Forget
He's
about it.
Tell us all about it. He was
All
like the
right.
godfather out there.
We brought some cheese bag.
And his show will restart on Wednesday, but he joins us tomorrow at 4:30. Now, stick around. Native Roots Radio is next, and the Paul Revere Show with Mark Thompson at 7 across the Civic Media Network.
Hi, it's Tom Brown.